Welcome to the Football Historian Podcast.
By all means, enjoy it.
He will go right to the very top.
Dos, tres, cuatro times.
Here we go, Germans.
I will turn these results round.
All right, that's good manners.
There's animosity, but there's no fight.
You can't beat them, join them.
How do you make me feel sick if I look at you?
No, I want to fight here.
Don't drink, don't sleep with women, don't drive fast cars.
Sometimes it may be good, sometimes it may be shit too!
Hello, welcome to the Football Historian Podcast. Today I'm delighted to be joined by David John Jaggs of the Ragamuffins.
How are you doing?
I'm terrific, how are you?
I'm alright, yeah.
We're going to pretend that the last half an hour didn't happen and just power through, yeah? This is definitely, you've just walked in the door, all professional.
Easy.
Press record and off we go.
Yeah.
Well, I keep saying, first of all, is who are you and why you're here, but my dad's told me to stop asking it, so who are you? That's what I'll say.
Who are you? Who are you? So yeah, I'm a singer, I'm a musician, I'm a songwriter, I suppose a performer, but that's always a weird thing to say. Makes you sound like you're acting out and everything like this. But yeah, so I've been playing music for quite a while now. I think we started out as the Ragamuffins back in 2007, which is obviously a long time. I sing for a Northern Soul band as well for my sins. As well, called the Northern Soul Train, and obviously we've got a busy December coming up.
Don't worry, we're pre-recording. Don't worry, you're coming out a week after. How was your Christmas?
Great! What a Christmas! I mean, Santa Claus, what a fella! Yeah, we've got a busy February as well, so yeah, there we go.
No, it's all good. Don't worry. So yeah, music was the first question. Just how did you get into it?
So I got encouraged from my parents early on. I had piano lessons. Parents both being Scousers got pushed towards the Beatles, and that was sort of a big thing. But the first record my mum got me when I got a CD player was a Beatles anthology record, which when you're a kid isn't exactly what you want, because you think you just want all the hits and you want the songs that you're familiar with. And I remember our head teacher at my primary school was she played the piano, and she used to try and sneak Beatles songs into assemblies and things like this. So I remember things like Yellow Submarine and All You Need Is Love from her playing them on the piano, and which is just bizarre, really. Yeah. But it had all the kind of acoustic outtakes and things like this, and little snippets from them on the Morecambe and Wise show. So I was quite well versed in Beatles history, but it's got all the kind of rock and roll things as well. And it was obviously quite frustrating that all the songs were on guitar and I was learning piano. So at the time, despite learning piano, I felt like, oh man, I wish I was playing guitar. That looks way cooler. And so as soon as I hit like 15, I was like, right, do you know what? I want to learn guitar. And so I gave it a good go, and I've done all right. So, so it was like through kind of had lessons early on, and then I always thought I could sing, and I always tried to do karaoke when we'd go on like family holidays, and I'd always try and get up and do karaoke. And then as a teenager, I fancied myself as a singer, and all my mates would tell me that I was crap. You know, they're probably still right, but. So I'd kind of gradually work on it, and then I got to a point where I was happy with my singing, but I wasn't happy with the fact that I kept losing my voice after every gig. So I'd be like, something's not quite right here. So I went for some singing lessons, and the guy was like, well, you're doing this right, but you're basically using all your energy. And so he kind of put me on the right track in that regard. So when I'm playing at like Hotel Anfield and doing like a 5-hour long set, that's all thanks to him.
Yeah. So can anyone learn to sing, do you reckon?
I think you can be coached. I mean, I think it's a lot easier if you've got a background and you can make the sound. But I think you can certainly. I mean, it's like learning. It's you think about it. Your vocal cords are a muscle, and so you can learn to use any muscle, and you can certainly get better. Yeah. So it's just.
You ever be on karaoke though? Will Young Evergreens, man. Oh. Guess the party started. One of the
best things I ever saw in town that surmises Liverpool beautifully was we'd just done a gig on Hardman Street. It might have been Bumper, might have been someone else, but we come out of there, and I was loading everything into the back of the car, and there was a gang of lads walking down the street, and all I could hear was, we're gonna take this moment and it can last forever. And it's like, it came out of nowhere, and I was just like, that's just it.
There's a football chant in there, I reckon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, yeah. You can have that one for free.
Yeah.
Copyright. Who are the Ragamuffins? Is the next question.
Yes. Yeah. Who are? Yeah, I think that's general enough. Yeah, we can do that. We can. So, the Ragamuffins sort of started out as like the band I wanted. It's the band I wanted to put together, and it started out as people I knew. We kind of did a good few years together. The original lineup was me, my mate Richard on drums, a mate of mine called Paul on bass, and a girl who was a friend of one of my mates growing up, called Jules. Obviously Jules is still my friend now. But yeah, so we got introduced to her, and we kind of done a few bits over the years. We got records played at Anfield. We got stuff on like Radio 1. And it felt like, yeah, this is okay. We went and did a few gigs abroad, but people kind of started to gradually move away. And so I thought, well, that's the end of the band and everything like this. And then one of our mates who was one of our fans at the time, he said he was going to put a little record together, a record label together. And he said, have you got any unreleased stuff that you'd like to put out? Because I love the band and I'd love to put something out. And we ended up, we put the band back together from just me and finding musicians, and it was a bit like the Magnificent Seven, where I'd kind of gradually, and I said, I'd always wanted us to have a proper brass section, and that's ultimately how I met Flo, who's our trumpet player now, because it was only meant to be a temporary thing for like a little run of gigs, and this is back in like 2012, and 12 years on, it's like it's still going on, so it is like a long thing. And then obviously the biggest thing, and what we've undoubtedly got the most notoriety for, is through the football thing. But that again was a complete accident. Yeah. It was me doing a piano bar gig on a Sunday afternoon, and one of my friends, Dan Ross, came up behind me, and he was just there having a pint, and he told me he was playing at Anfield, and I was like, I'd love to do that gig. And he's like, well, I'll phone my agent now. So literally there and then, phones his agent, Steve Letcher. Steve goes, yeah, I'll sort this out. Play that weekend, and then obviously the rest of the season was the season when Liverpool won the 6th European Cup. We ended up putting the Si Senor song out as a single. It becomes pretty massive and does really well, and we've not really stopped doing them since, because it's just the most fun gig you can possibly do.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about football, obviously. Yeah. Normally on a match day, as you say, you perform in Hotel Anfield. Yeah. Normally, am I right in saying you do seem to be on your own?
Yeah.
But you're still like the Ragamuffins.
Yeah, still very much the Ragamuffins.
So how is it like? Do you prefer being on your own? Do you miss them? You're on your own a lot. Do you like doing that? And obviously mixing the football with the music, which obviously still is music, but it's like not something that a lot of people want to do, maybe. So why do you do it? Why do you do it on your own, and do you enjoy it?
Okay, yeah. So in terms of the stuff on my own, I think it's just the one. Be quite honest, it's the cost, obviously, because if there's more of us, then you've got to pay more musicians. Yeah. So, there's obviously a lot more interest when you're playing Manchester City or Man United at home, as opposed to, and with the greatest respect, like an FA Cup tie against Shrewsbury Town or something like this. Sorry, Shrewsbury.
Yeah, it's a risky one.
Getting some absolute salop hate on the comments. But no, it's one of those, isn't it? So we get when there's more people in, then it obviously makes more sense in that sense. But obviously we do as much stuff as the Ragamuffins as the band as possible, because it's sort of our USP. Because there's obviously quite a lot of people who play football music now, and it's almost become a selling point of the club. Going back to people like Jamie and Keogh, and then more recently Andy. It's obviously like a huge thing now, and it's like some people don't like it as much, some people do like it, but there's obviously so much choice, because you can go into a pub that doesn't have it on, and you can go. So there's obviously so much choice on match days for that sense. Personally, I love it with the band so much more, because the band are my mates, and it's just so much fun, and we have a laugh together, and we've been really lucky to go all over the world doing it, and traveling the world and playing with your mates is one of the reasons you kind of want to be in a band when you first join, and it's like one of the things you dream of. So it is really good fun, and also the interactive thing of if you can catch a moment, and I've sort of said this recently. It's like some of the things we've managed to do where we've been playing a song and something has happened in a football sense, whether it's us playing after a big game and a big moment, or if there's a big moment going on in another game because of the nature of league football, you can have a moment that's sort of like, you can't just get it from music alone, no matter how big a high a music event can get. If you've got the like almost orgasmic euphoria of a goal going in while you're playing a song that has a big let off anyway, it's almost like you am I right in thinking of the film Blade, where like they're in the vampire club and then they start spraying blood sprinklers everywhere and everyone's just going bananas? It's sort of like that. So the other week we were playing we were doing before the Liverpool Villa game, and obviously the City result happens when they got beat by Brighton. And the reaction was obviously for those 2 goals while I'm mid-song is something that you've got to harness. And to do that as a musician it's quite remarkable, because you normally try and plan your set, but to be able to react is almost like it's almost like jazz, reacting to each other. And that is one of my favourite things in music. Like the way that you interact with the crowd, and to interact with the crowd in that sort of really heightened senses level is just amazing, and it's one of the reasons I still love doing it.
Yeah. Maybe next time throw some blood at them all as well.
I guess some. Well, I mean, blood sprinklers at Hotel Anfield. We were going to do that for the Halloween game, but I think we were away at Brighton. So
maybe next year. Next year. So maybe go back to yourself. I know we just dipped into football. We will come back to it.
Yeah.
How many instruments can you play, and what is your favourite instrument?
So I play, piano, keyboard, organ, all that sort of thing is pretty much just all the same one, isn't it? So I got roped into playing pipe organ at one of my friends, one of my wife's friends' weddings. Obviously now my friends as well, because you inherit them all. But so I played pipe organ at their wedding. And I think it was just assumed, you can play piano, you can do this. And you're sitting in a church and playing this huge pipe organ and being playing Pasha Baal's Canon. And then she's quite a nervous girl, is Sam. So Sam just like legged it up the aisle because she wasn't enjoying all her eyes being on it. And so I was like kind of and she's like, and I've got the real organist tapping me on the shoulder. Yeah, she's at the front. You can finish playing. I was like, I've learned this song. I'm gonna play the thing.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. So
so that's not your favourite then?
Passion. Yeah. Pipe organ, not up there, but yeah. There's so that, but yeah, piano. So that and guitar really. But obviously, when you play guitar, you can play a bit of bass and things like this. But that is to do bass players a disservice, because the feel you need for a bass is just a completely different thing from guitar. And so
when you see you on a match day, I think it's the Jota song, if I'm right in saying this, I feel like that shows off your musical talent, because I don't feel like I'm disrespecting you. You go into a pub, there's music on, you're having a pint, you talk about footy, but then when you start playing that, I think even my dad would turn around like, yeah, he's quite good, this bloke. And he was the first time he saw you.
Which one?
The
Zombie Nation one. Yeah.
So like, and you're playing like 5 different things, your time, and you go, and you're like,
the loop pedal stuff.
Yeah.
The loop. So yeah, the loop pedal's a bit of a, I suppose, an instrument of itself. So yeah, maybe that's 3. But the loop pedal's hilarious, because obviously seeing it. I suppose someone like Ed Sheeran popularised it to a degree. But I was aware of them before that, but then I was like, well, I wonder what you could do if you put like a keyboard through it, and if you could work out drums and things like this. So like getting the drum part of it is quite fun, and you can just do some ridiculous things with it. So it's almost like if you get a new instrument or a new synthesizer, it's like trying to work out how to get the most out of it.
Yeah.
And you can just get some hilarious sounds out of it. I mean, yeah, you'd have thought. I mean, even like they want to do the what's it called, the Ewan McVicker one for Salah. Obviously, I don't want to demonetize you or like get people cancelling it but Salah's good and doing that.
You're allowed to swear.
Right. So like, yeah. So for that one, that was a case of there's a lad who comes into the hotel called Yaya, and he came up during the COVID times when obviously going to the pub to do it, and he came up and went, "Have you heard this song called like Salah's fucking good?" And I was like, "No," and he's just singing it, and obviously he's had a good few drinks and everything. He's been screaming at the screen for like 2 hours, and so I'm like, I've no idea what this song is, but yeah, I'll give it a go at some point. And then I saw a clip of some lads out in Marbella or somewhere like belting it out, and I was like, it's like Shaka Khan. Oh, yeah. And then obviously heard the Ewan McVicker version. I was like, right, let's get this on a loop pedal, and yeah, which is just hilarious. So yeah,
that must it must be a great feeling to be able to interact with a crowd like that. And then I get back to your own stuff. It's taped off the radio. I saw one of your earlier songs. Is that correct? You on BBC Breakfast? It was on this morning.
Yeah.
Your latest song, is it like King Tiger? Is the latest one on Spotify?
Yeah.
So obviously you mix the football with your own stuff.
Yeah.
In terms of your own music, how would you describe it to someone? And then what you do with your own stuff?
Yeah. So our own stuff is I suppose a cross between sort of ska, soul, pop, and then I mean I do like a bit of like folky stuff, because my favourite band are Bell and Sebastian, and obviously they're sort of like almost like mocked for being quite twee, but you know, a lot of the stuff is quite sort of big soul music, and it's just like Stuart's voice in Bell and Sebastian, Stuart Murdoch, his voice is quite sort of restrained and that, so it's like and he kind of almost like whispers some songs, and like but the arrangements are huge in some of the songs, and so I always liked that, and I always wanted to. I always loved the specials. Always loved like kind of ska like that. I love me Elvis Costello. Obviously, like I said before, the Beatles stuff. When you think about how ballsy the Beatles can be on like, you know, things like Helter Skelter, I'm Down. They're like, at the end of the day, they were like a rock and roll band first, and then they kind of adapted and changed and did all these like great ballads as well as the rock and roll and the heavy stuff. So yeah, we're a little bit like all of that. I mean, tapes off the radio we did on an album called Over on the Ship and Forecast, which I think we brought out in like 2016, and that was like the most ambitious thing we'd done at the time. And that was the first time we started getting stuff on like Radio 2 quite regularly. Yeah, I mean, we did a wedding for a guy who was he's one of the presenters on BBC Manchester, and I think he does the commentary for Man United games. A guy called Liam Bradford, and we did his wedding to Amy a couple of years ago now, and he was doing the commentary on one of the Liverpool Man United games, and he was in the gantry. And obviously our song comes on. I'm getting texts coming, your bloody song's playing here. And he's obviously like done the show where we've done like a live version a couple of weeks ago. And obviously not realising like that, you know, George plays our songs at Anfield. So that was hilarious. So yeah, but I mean, all that kind of came was, and like me, because that was before we started doing the football thing. One of the biggest buzzes was hearing our songs at the match. And I was at the final in Athens in 2007. We were outside the ground, and I saw a fella hiding a bag of cans behind a hedge, and he saw that I'd seen him, and he was like, came over and went, "You're not gonna like try and rob me cans, are you?" And I was like, "Your voice sounds really familiar." And I was like, and he's like, "Well, you might know me, Dad." I was like, "Is it George Sefton?" He's like, "Oh, did you know?" And so like, that was like Lenny, and like, so we got talking, and obviously he's saying about being in a band, and like a band very much in its infancy at that point. And he's like, "Well, if you write anything and it's any good, here's my address, send it to me, I'll pass it on to my dad, and you never know, it might get played at the game." And lo and behold, the next season, I kind of send him our first sort of demo or something, and he plays it at the match, and it was like, wow. So yeah,
he's a boss guy. We've had him in that seat. He's a very lovely man, isn't he? Yeah.
great.
Yeah, and we'll go to football again, if that's okay. So your top song on Spotify with 4.2 million streams, if I looked before, Si Senor. We'll talk about that, but also you've done Firmino, Jota, Slot, McAllister, Tsimikas.
Yeah.
Some people might think I'll separate the football from the your own stuff.
Yeah.
Is it a conscious decision that's all under the same umbrella? Do you think it impacts you negatively? And just talk about the Frito song at the end.
Yeah, so I've often thought about this. Now, all the football stuff we do, we give away the like financially to fan supporting food banks. That wasn't a decision we kind of made straight away. The first song we knew we were going to do for that, but sometimes I feel a bit of a sort of a weird situation because a lot of the time people will market a night to have like an ex-footballer or like a group of ex-footballers in the case of some of the festivals and events we do overseas, and then us. And just with the nature of music, I always find that music has to be the finale of the night because that's what music is. And as good an anecdote as Kevin Keegan could potentially say about scoring 2 goals in the 1974 FA Cup final, people still want to sing "You'll Never Walk Alone" at the end of the night. And I've heard. I mean, he's sung on a couple of records, hasn't he, Keegan, down the years? And sorry, Kevin, but you're not as good a singer as me.
He's better footballer.
You're a better footballer, and to be fair, he's like in his 70s as well, so he's still a better footballer than me. So it's just the nature of music. But the reason, I mean, the people on the headline of the poster and the main draw of the poster is the footballers. Yeah. So I almost feel a little bit, it's like embarrassed as a football fan and as a Liverpool fan when it's like these people who you idolised growing up, they're sort of like watching you finish the night, and it's like, just sit down there, lads. And it's like, God. So I've asked a few of them. I was like, do you ever feel it? And they're like, no, it's just how it is. And so yeah, it is interesting that. But we've done so the whole idea was as we kind of went on and we did like some of the other songs, because I think we did the first one and then COVID happened before we thought about doing another one. And so we thought, well, we've kind of got to try and help this charity. And obviously the way that people were struggling through COVID and some people got support, some people didn't. It felt very sort of poorly managed, but that's another conversation entirely. So we were trying to help out there.
Yeah.
We actually they used one of the donations we did to donate to the food banks over in Manchester, and that got a lot of publicity, which ultimately led to Man United and Man City, out of sort of guilt a little bit, donating 50 grand each, because I think Liverpool and Everton had both made a donation. So the food banks in Liverpool were okay at the time, and the Manchester food banks were saying, well, we're struggling here. And so yeah, they used the donation and songs to get a bit of money out of that. But it sort of felt like, well, do you know what? Let's just carry on with this, because it's like the amount of money you get on Spotify isn't going to change our lives. And there's 6 of us, so six of us who plays on the Liverpool records when we're including like Tom who plays saxophone on some of them. So it felt like, well, it's not going to change our lives, but we can make a big difference in helping other people. So we've kept that up. And initially we did put it out as Liverpool Together, but it just felt, well, if we market it, because otherwise we're pushing for something that isn't ours, so it's going to be difficult to promote it anyway. So we just started promoting it under the Ragamuffins banner, and Mark Kenny, who obviously put Si Senor out with us, he was doing it as ourselves, and it was just far easier to do it like that. But it's obviously with Spotify, it's quite difficult to distinguish between your original records and the football records as well. So it's partially through ease, partially through just it's what we've got to do. Has it impacted us negatively? I don't really think so. I mean, since COVID, we've not been able to do as much artistically in terms of our own music, just because of time. And I've got 2 young kids. Flo's just become a dad in the last couple of years. So we've not been able to do as much generally in that sense. So, yeah.
You enjoy doing it, and you're doing it for a good cause.
God, yeah, exactly.
It's got 4.2 million streams.
I mean, that
must be pretty good to see that.
It's insane, and yeah, obviously with things like Spotify, you can directly see when it's had spikes, and it's great to sort of correlate that with huge significant events in Liverpool's history. So after the 7-0 against Man United, the spike was insane. After when we won the league, obviously people must have been listening to it at home. We've had people telling us they had it on in the delivery room when they were having their kids. It was Kenny Dalglish's ringtone, which is just. I was going to retire. I was going to just go. Do you know what? Like it just doesn't get much better than this.
And when he left as well, he played at Anfield.
Yeah, played at Anfield when he left. It was. Yeah, he had it on his phone. So his wife was playing it when he scored the winner in the in the Club World Cup final. A mate of mine at Melwood, the actor was saying he'd go around and play it on his phone. Sadio Mane played it in the gym. It's just like insane.
Yeah, That's the reach that you can get, and obviously that helps with Liverpool being big and also the songs being good. But say that you've done a host of other players as well. So we had Andy Hodgson on last time, who basically said he didn't make the Lewis Diaz song, but he made the Lewis Diaz song what it is and playing it. So is there a chant or song that you think you've helped put out to a wider audience, and is the one that you've started or you want to start that you think could be the new Lewis Diaz? I'll push that last one because my little boy there's one he sings all the time, which is hilarious. But yeah, for me, it was a song. It was a chant before we put it into a song, and that was the thing when we'd started doing the match day gigs around that time. And we very quickly, we'd seen all. Jamie had been going for a couple of years. Boss Night had been doing their thing for a couple of years. So we had like a blueprint of like, well, we could do this, but it's like, well, if we're gonna do it as like full band entertainment on a match day on the stage outside the ground, which is what we were doing at that point, then we've got to do it as like a little bit more to the original record. So obviously it's easy with things like Salah for like sit down. It's easy for like Fields of Anfield Road because you've got like a traditional song there, but it's like, well, how can we turn songs that are a chant how can we turn something that's a chant and make it into a song? And so Si Senor was the one where I just did a little quick demo, got my daughter to sit on my knee, play on one of the formula tins, got that done, sent it to the boys and go, right, can we learn this for the next game? And so we'd done that, and I remember Gibbo from the Anfield Rap sending a message going, that Larissa, Bobby's wife, was dancing to your song, your version of the Firmino song, as she was going in the ground. And I was like, I did not know that, but that is pretty cool. So let's be honest, it'd have been a huge thing anyway, but obviously the way that happened in Madrid and the fact that they used our song then at that moment, it's like You'll Never Walk Alone, and then the players all rush to the fans, and then and it's like, I'm guessing you don't know that's happening either.
We had no idea that was on. We got told it was on a playlist for Madrid. I just thought that was like a Spotify playlist thing. Not these are the songs that the club's going to play if we win the European Cup. So yeah, so that was just insane. And I suppose if that helped the song go from being a big thing to a huge thing, great. I think it'd have been there anyway. And if not, someone else would have done it. And obviously, Jamie's got his own version of Si Senor that's on the Boss EP, so that got to a huge audience anyway. So it'd have been there anyway.
Yeah.
But
the other players and that. Like,
the other player. I think it's weird that Simicast. I've never heard that song sung in the ground, and I remember that going.
I've heard it once or twice before. It's never like takes off. Though,
no. Yeah, like Ross, our mate, who's the Irish lad who came up with that on a night out.
Yeah.
We kind of messaged him going, can we record this? Because obviously we did the version of that in about 2 or 3 days from let's put this out to we've recorded it and it's out. So we couldn't get a studio, so we actually recorded the drums at that in Hotel Anfield in between doing an advert for might have been Bet365, can't remember, but it was like for a betting company filming us for an advert, and it's like, just give us a second, we just got to do a take. So, because obviously everything around that time when we were in the run for the quad was just bananas. But so we did that, and then what were the other ones that we've done? I mean, Thiago was always Thiago was the weird one, because obviously we didn't get a chance to sing that song as fans because of COVID, so it felt like we've got to do something here to sort of, acknowledge the song, because I think when you think about the whole point of a player song, it's to make that player feel incredible.
Yeah. They all love it, don't they? Of course.
Yeah. I mean, McAllister's been posting videos of the song getting sung. I mean, that's obviously the most recent one we've done.
Yeah.
And we did something a bit different with that, because so the lads like John Kay, John Parry and everyone who they did the song in the dark house. They'd obviously done the little video, and that video went bananas. And we were like, well, if we're gonna record this, they need to be acknowledged and get the recognition for this. So we got them to sing on it. So we just we've done the drums, we've done the bass, we've done the vocals and everything. So I basically took my little portable studio setup, recorded it in the room where they did the video, set the trumpet up, got the trumpet done. Then everyone came in, we all got a couple of pints in, and we just sang it, and it was just so much fun. Yeah. It's like, so now I'm thinking, well, we could probably do a record, because we could probably do a record of that kind of thing and make it really authentic, because
They were asking about the Ozan Kabak one as well. That was my missus is a blue, and even she was like, I can't get that song out my head. She walk around the house singing Ozan Kabak. That was that LFC TV? Did that, or was that just they put you on there after? Or?
No. So we did a video for the Anfield Rap. We did a live one at the Hotel Anfield for Redmen TV, and there was a fella But the initial video or videos that had gone viral, I think the Echo picked it up, because, I mean, let's be honest, at that time it was very weird to get football news, because it's basically the match and then nothing, because you've got no. So it's anything that was content related was huge, and it was the first gig I'd done after the second lockdown, the second proper mad one. So I think we were playing Leeds away on the Monday night. All the talk was of the Super League, and I'd come up with this, and I COVID, not much going on. I'd learned how to play the Tetris theme as a sort of thing to get my daughter to dance to, because she'd do this little dance where she'd spin round and go berserk, and she was on 2 at the time. So I was like, well, this is fun, isn't it? Bit of a joke, Tetris. And I just remember thinking, how good as a football song would this be? And so there we go. We just had to get the right player, and then I was sat on my phone. I think we had a hospital appointment, and Mrs. had gone in, because obviously COVID, you can only go in one at a time. So I'm sitting in this room, socially distancing from everyone, checking my phone on deadline day, and it's like, Liverpool sign. Was he from from Schalke, I think.
Yeah.
Liverpool signed Schalke defender Ozan Kabak on loan. I was like, Ozan Kabak, and he plays centre back, and now he plays centre back for Liverpool. And so that was it. That was the song, and I was like, well, just a shame we haven't got a gig for a couple of months here, isn't it? So, and then that first one, I just thought, so it's just like, okay, guys, and obviously everyone's livid. Everyone's livid with the club. Everyone's livid with football for this. And so we're singing all the like, they don't care about fans, all that sort of thing. All those chants are coming out, and then it's like, okay, lads, bit of brevity, bit of levity. Let's do a bit of this. And so I just played that before the game, and some fella comes up and goes, "Lad, get that Kabak song. Like, that's great." It's like, you done that? And I was like, yeah. And then obviously there's a bit of space, and some guys start doing the Russian dancing, the sort of do, and it just went bizarre. It just went bananas. So that clip took off. Mates of mine didn't realise it was me on piano, and then I started getting, "Is that you playing piano?" I was like, "Indeed it is." So you're just unlucky there. I think that his career was so short, and there was hardly any fans at all. I mean, he was playing with it. I mean, there'll be another one. Don't worry, he'll come up. You've got enough. So I'll just finish up by saying you've already mentioned all three of them, but Jamie Webster,
Kia, where we've had on, Andy Hodgson, we've had on. They're a bloke with a guitar. They do very well. You're a full band. Do you think maybe it's harder for you because it's such a big setup to go out and do what they do? And then with Jamie Webster, his Liverpool stuff did so well. He had a career. You see how well he's doing now. He's kind of like parked to the side. Would you ever get too big that you think that you'd have to park it to one side? And what is the big dream for yourself, football related?
I mean, in a sense, all right, going on a complete aside, recently me and my wife have started, like, look, it's obviously when you have kids, you start to panic about like how they are. And so we looked at ADHD, and like, because we were like contemporary going, I wonder if, he's just not there. And then we looked at the adult symptoms, and it's like, David, have you got ADHD? I was like, God. So I have a really short attention span, and I get bored very easily, so I need something different going on all the time, which is why I do the soul band, which is great fun. And we do some really good audience. We do kind of theatre sized things, and we do festivals and things like that. And it's completely different in a sense because it's a similar sonic thing, but obviously it's like a full 9-piece band. It's all dressing up in the suits and everything and doing that. And it's a different audience, very different audience, and it's different delivery. Then there's the ragamuffin stuff when I play on my own and like push the songwriting thing. So I did a support gig recently to a brilliant soul singer called P.P. Arnold. I've done like some mad support gigs like that. I've done ones with like the guys from the Jam, and it's that kind of keeps you focused and keeps your mind going in that sense. And then obviously there's the ragamuffins where we play with the band, pushing our own stuff, and then there's obviously the football stuff. And sometimes it does blag your head because it's like, oh my God, what am I playing today? I've got to get my head back in like this mode. I've got to get my head in this mode.
Yeah.
But it's also, it kind of keeps you on your toes, and and it keeps you. It keeps me. I feel like I'm developed. I feel like if I just did the football stuff, I'd feel a bit like, because sometimes you're dependent on external factors to develop it. Like, so when we were crap in the 2022-23 season, we realised that we didn't actually have any new songs. The closest thing to a new song that Liverpool had was that rehash of the Torres song for Jota, which is okay, but it's nothing really new.
Yeah.
And so you sort of dependent on external factors there, whereas obviously when it's your own artistic career, you are very much the controller of your own destiny in that sense. And I can, ultimately, Jamie was never going to headline Sefton Park and play to 30,000 people just by playing LA. He needed a lot more substance, and my God, he's got a lot more substance because he's an incredible artist at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And he was given that chance to develop that and do that. So I don't know. I mean, I think in terms of the dream, to a point, I feel like I'm doing it because I don't know whether I wouldn't cope with fame like very well. I'd be all over the gaff. I mean, I'm bad enough I'm bad enough as I am. So
what about those Madrid and Paris when they got the big stages? Is that?
But then again, it's like you can do big gigs, but a big gig is a moment, and it's sort of like there's times when we've done really, really big things in like different guises, and you're like, the moment is over very quickly, and even on a day, the actual gig is a fraction of the time of a day. At you think about if you're awake for 18 hours in a day, it might be an hour in that day, which is nothing in that. So in terms of your musical journey, it's not a big part of your musician life, and there's which is a weird thing to say, but yeah, it's
living the dream's not bad though. That's
it really is. I mean, last weekend when we were recording this, we went over to Paris and played there, and it was unbelievable. Like, but it would have been nice. It would have been nice to have seen some of Paris while we were there, because I've been there before. It would have been nice to go and have but that's just the nature of the job. To a point, sometimes you go somewhere and you're like in and out, and sometimes you get to see a little bit more. But it's part of the job, and living the dream though.
Yeah. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. All right then. Well, that's the end of our first section.
Okay.
We'll have a quick break and then we'll talk more about football, maybe aside from music a bit.
Okay.
In a couple of seconds. See you then.
Hi, I'm Warren, the producer for the Football Historian podcast, and we're here today to talk to you about the Patreon subscription.
Yes, so for just £1 a month for the first 100 people, there's a lot of benefits that you get, and I think £1 is a terrific deal.
Pittance,
yes, £1 only, and you get early access, which means at least 24 hours before everyone else gets the episode, you get to watch it. There's also an extra section, we call it the Football Historian Podcast Extra Time, and we ask all the questions to the guests that no one else gets to see unless you're a patron. And on top of that, you're the ones who get to ask the questions. You send them in, we tell you which guest is going to be coming and sitting in this chair. You ask them, we record it, you get to watch it. No one else does. On top of that, we do a monthly special. We did one last night. It was a quiz. You were there.
Yeah, bedlam and great content.
Yeah, so hopefully you can watch that. As I said, we've got a round on Linvoy Primus or Lionel Messi. We've done mastermind stuff, all that. That's going to happen every month. The bigger this grows, we're going to do it even more regularly. Hopefully it'll be once a week. But we need your support. So to do that, £1 a month for the first 100 people. Your early support will be rewarded. From then on, it's £3 a month if you want to support us. If you want to pay £5 a month, you get all that we've just mentioned, but you get a poster. Warren will sign it, I'll sign it, all the lads. We'll get a few of the guests to do it as well. We'll send that out to you. And then for £10 a month, you get all that, the poster, all the early access, and you get a free copy of any of my books. So I've done one on Billy Liddell, Crossing the Park, Tommy Lawrence. They're all worth at least £20. For just £10, you get a copy of the book, all the stuff we've already mentioned. We'd really appreciate your support. We cannot do this without you.
This really is a passion project, and anything people can put into it goes straight back into it. We don't take a wage. We're doing this for free. We're doing this because we enjoy what we do.
That's it. It all makes the content better. And I say from just £1 a month, you can make our dreams come true. Thanks for the support. Enjoy the rest of the episode. Welcome back to the second section. Thank you for not running away in the break. We're going to talk a bit more about football in general. And the first one is, obviously, away from music, but this is going to be involved in music, is who's like the best person you've met or best opportunity you've had because of the music you've been singing?
Obviously, we have met Firmino, obviously, but the biggest, I mean, the best opportunities we've had musically have come through Si Senor, and not that obviously there's things that if we'd have just had Si Senor and we'd done nothing else, I think obviously we'd probably have stopped doing it. But the fact that we've been involved in that and the things we've been offered to do that, probably through the Bobby song and everything like this, and obviously we got the chance, got a very quick meeting with him and like shook his hand and everything. And there was a moment when at this event when I was looking at him because it's like, wow, Bobby over there. And then he kind of looked over and he sort of clocked me looking at him, and he kind of was like, and I was like, no, he doesn't know who I am. Or does he? I don't know. But then we kind of bumped into each other. And obviously, he's famous for his English was never phenomenal. So how much he understood of me, like basically fanboying over him, it's like to be seen. But yeah, I just thought it was. I was really glad that I got the chance to say hello and just say thank you and everything while he was at Liverpool. Because that was a huge thing.
He was a decent player, wasn't he, to be fair?
Oh, fantastic, yeah.
Anyone else you met? I see a picture with Simicast as well.
I met Simicast through that Hotel Anfield. I mean, we've been lucky enough to pretty much meet all the guys who've been. So we obviously met like Klopp and met. But we had a funny one with Thiago. We were finishing an event, and like this little girl comes up and I'm playing. I'm like, I've got my guitar, and like what I do when if we're ever doing an event and there's like kids there, like, and the inevitably want to play your guitar, you kind of hold the chord and let them basically strum the strings. And then this little girl's doing that, and then her dad comes over, and her dad's Thiago, and it's like, all right, lad, how are you?
You picked the right kid there.
Me and Thiago are just having like a no kids sort of like dad to dad chat, which is just like surreal. So we met that, and then the best one, and I love this, and basically we were doing an event, and Salah was there. And I had a bit of a chat to him, and I was like, obviously our daughter like kind of very conscious of Salah, and we'd have it where we'd be walking down the street and I'd be carrying her to like nursery, and she'd be singing his song. So I said, could I possibly get you to do a little video saying hello to Harriet, my daughter? And he's like, I'm really sorry, I don't do videos. I was like, oh, no problem, Mum, no problem. And he goes, whoa, can she do FaceTime? It's like, well, she's only 4 years old, but I'll just so phone me mother-in-law. It's like, answer the phone now, answer the phone. And so it's like, oh, hello Harriet, yeah, I've got someone here for you. It's like, so picks up the phone. It's like, hello Harriet, and he's amazing. It was so, honestly, couldn't have been nicer. However, I did then have to face the backlash of my mum, because my mother-in-law, not a Liverpool fan. My mum, huge Liverpool fan. Reason I am a Liverpool supporter is my mum. So she's like flip round the ear all. Phone Alan, gonna phone me. So yeah, so
she should have been looked after it.
Yeah, well, one of them, isn't it? Yeah. So.
And then, I'm sorry to do this because you've already told me off camera, but can you tell the David Johnson story again? Because I like that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay?
So no, it's grand. Yeah. So the late great David Johnson. So the first, obviously, like I said before, so the Si Senor song was the first sort of charity thing we'd done for the fans supporting food banks, and it was, we thought, obviously, with it being a joint Liverpool and Everton venture, like Everton charity, Liverpool charity, with Ian Byrne, the MP for West Derby, and Dave Kelly, I think it was the Everton supporters officer, was he? He was like, but anyway, obviously, huge Evertonian, unbelievable guy as well. They we arranged to do the first donation and get as much publicity for it as possible to kind of publicise the food banks. So we're doing a thing on stage at the ground. We're doing a thing for LFC TV, doing a thing for Sky. So we're kind of running all around the ground beforehand, doing bits. And we thought, well, we'll do some donations as well. And I mean, yeah. So we've got our food donation as well as the big giant comedy check that you get. And for me, the start of that day, Liverpool Everton, I think the game we end up winning 5-2. I phone up Dave in the morning because I woke up in the morning and my cat had died, and he'd been sick with lymphoma, so it was like on the cards, but obviously it's still a sad thing when you get it. So we'd had all this like special food that we had to buy for him, to help him digest it and everything, and we had it all, and it's fucking dear, so to be quite honest. So we're like, well, I don't want to just throw it away. So I phone up Dave and I go, well, obviously, people who've got cats are going to be dependent on the food banks and everything. So do you take donations of pet food? He was like, well, yeah, obviously we do, but it's not something people often think of, so it's a really useful thing. So I got this big tray of pet food as well as our donation for the food banks. So we're going down from the stage on Paisley Square at Anfield, past the main stand, down to the Annie Road end where we're filming for LFC TV. So me, Mark Kenny's there with the check. We're both carrying a box. Mark Kenny's telling me about how some of the events that he's organising in the future. And lo and behold, he's saying, oh, hang on. And he spots Terry McDermott and David Johnson going into the ground. He's like, well, I've got them both doing this event in the US that we're booking for next year. Obviously, COVID again, never happened. So we see them, we go over, and I'm carrying he goes, I'll just give you this box. So I'm carrying the two huge boxes, like waddling over. Mark's chatting away, and I'm just there with the two boxes. And out of nowhere, David he just has a look in the box and goes, oh, it's all mine for two. And sees one of the little bags of cat biscuits is fallen open. So he goes, yeah, God, no. And he's like, no wonder you're giving this away. And like, I'm just like, I've got my face sort of half covered up by this box, and I'm just like, and yeah, so me and Mark walk away and we go, did that just happen? It's like, yeah, you could never sell him. So yeah, he just ate. Yeah, so yeah. So thank God it was one of the cheese cat biscuits. And also the other thing is apparently pet food has to be, obviously it doesn't have to be tasting nice, but it has to be fit for human consumption.
Yeah.
So
you had to poison them, yeah.
Oh my God.
Would your cat have been happy that he shared the biscuits with David Johnson?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a fitting tribute,
yeah. Well done, Jim.
Okay, good. I like that one. Thank you. We're going to chat about Liverpool, maybe more in general again. So, Are Liverpool fans the best fans in the world? You're going to be very biased as a Liverpool fan, but what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, basically. If it's my God, if I say no, clip that, get him sacked. But no, I think when you go around the world, like we've been lucky enough to do so, it's frankly sensational, the following that the club has, and I think sometimes you can't get that across. You know, you can go on holiday abroad and you see how big the club is, but until you sort of go, when you go to like Canada and there's a huge sort of like supporters club there, and people are like, yeah, and there's like when we obviously in Paris last week, and the number of people who've come out there on an international break and things like this. But the hilarious one for me is, so one of my friends start the story to set the scene.
Yeah,
our drummer Will broke both of his arms in an accident the week before we went to Canada. That's the start of the story,
okay.
Which is like quite funny. And I get the phone call, I've broken my arms. I was like, wow, arms blood. So he was out. He wasn't able to drum like for quite a while they were healing. There was some of the plates in. Yeah. We had to use a number of different drummers. So, but the guy who did most of the drumming was a mate of ours, Nathan, who's a Liverpool fan. And Nathan plays in a band called Porridge, who are doing really, really well. And last year they supported Coldplay at the Etihad to like God knows how many thousand people. They've gone over. So anyway, get a phone call from Nathan that turns into a voicemail because he phones me up at 4:00 in the morning. And he was out in LA doing like radio sessions and a couple of gigs and things like that. And he goes, "All right, Jaggs, how you doing? Yeah, Nathan out here. I'll be honest, I'm out in the town in LA. Just bumped into a mate of mine. He's like, anyway, stuff it, I'll put him on." And it's like a Liverpool fan over in Los Angeles. And he's just like and so he's got talking to Nathan, and he's gone, "Oh man, you love Liverpool, like big Liverpool fan, like been over a couple of times, things like this." And he's like, "Have you heard of a band called the Ragamuffins?" Like, what? It's like, "Oh man, I listen to their songs on Spotify all the time and I love them. Have you heard them?" He's like, Nathan's like, "Love them." I mean, he's like, "Fucking used to play for them." So
quite a big reach.
And he's like, but it's the mad thing. He's out in LA playing in a band that are big enough to go and tour LA and do radio sessions for like major radios there. And it's like ostensibly a pub band who are playing in pubs in things in Anfield. It's like yeah, and that is how big Liverpool is as an entity, and it's insane. It's
how good you are as well. You can take some.
No, be honest.
You can take a bit of credit, can't you?
So yeah,
it wasn't told about anyone else. But so it's a massive club. There's a bit of conversation. I was watching the overlap before, and there was one of they do hot takes, and one of the first ones of the season was that the Anfield atmosphere is a myth. I'm sure all Liverpool fans would disagree. However, you can also claim that it's not always at its best. So when we had Andy and we were talking to him about it, and he was saying like, how can you have an atmosphere in a pub where the whole pub's bouncing before the match? They go in, and then at kick-off it can be quiet at times. Massive games when the fans are needed doesn't always happen, but 3:00 kick-off when maybe people are hungover or whatever, it's not always the loudest. So what do you think on the Anfield atmosphere, and is there a way, do you think, you could make it better and transfer the pub atmosphere into the ground? Yeah,
well, I mean, the big thing when you think about it in a pub, you've got your mates all together, and it's really hard to start songs off on their own. But I think there's, I think Tony Evans said this on something fairly recently. There's a big difference between atmosphere and songs. When you're in pubs, pubs can have a good atmosphere, but it's generally about singing songs beforehand. And the biggest song for atmosphere is just people screaming, and it's that wall of noise. And I mean, you know, we were talking about the Costa Simicast song before. Singing "Shimmy, shimmy, shimmy," it isn't gonna. I mean, the Costa Simicast song wouldn't have Matt Hummels turning around and not realising where he is when he's trying to get the ball out of the net in the Cop End. The Costa Simicast song wouldn't have been intimidating John Terry and Paulo Ferreira when we were playing Chelsea in 2005. So there's a big difference between atmosphere and songs and things like that. And also, Steven Gerrard said the loudest stadium he ever played in was when we played Besiktas in the Champions League, and we got beat 2-1 in 2007, was it 2007-8? And the Besiktas fans were incredible. We actually did one of the first things we did was a little thing in town for them, because one of our mates had gone over to Istanbul, and he said, can we do a little acoustic thing for them when they came back? Yeah, it was. But when you've got things like that on the continent, it's and their grounds aren't ever spoken with the same reverence as Anfield, and the things that Anfield can do. I mean, obviously it can influence players, and influence proceedings on the pitch, but the difference is the dynamic. And obviously, as a musician, you always get told about dynamic, and a song will always sound louder if you've got a quiet bit. And that's obviously not a way of going, well, if Anfield wasn't ever quiet, then the louder bits wouldn't sound loud, because that would be just ridiculous. Yeah. But if you don't have that dynamic and the fact that it's amplifying what's going on the pitch, like I said before, it's that it's taking a moment that's big and making it bigger, and that's what the Anfield atmosphere does. So that I mean, obviously we're recording this a couple of weeks after the Leverkusen game, but there was that moment when something happened on the pitch, then the crowd elevate it, then the players respond, then the crowd elevate that because they and it's that momentum. I mean, I saw someone said before we played the Barcelona game to me on Twitter that momentum is a myth and doesn't exist, and it's like, Lionel Messi isn't the best player in the world because of momentum. It's like, yeah, but if you're saying momentum doesn't happen in football, and this event correlates to this happening, then this happening, then this happening, and things ramp up, and the performance level of the players improves, and then the atmosphere of the crowd improves, and that's hard to do. I mean, even there were points last season when I felt that we actually benefited from a calmer Anfield. So I think that we beat West Ham. Was it 3-1? At Anfield, and it was like there was a moment where we were just popping passes around, and in the end Nunes had a really good chance which he should have scored. You know, we could say that about a couple of games last season, but yeah, and that is a huge thing, the dynamic. And if it was constant noise, I don't think it'd work. But that's the difference in English football, and that's something that isn't exclusive to Anfield.
Yeah.
So it's reactive. It's a reactive thing, and the crowd reacts to what's going on the pitch, whereas the loudest parts of the crowd on the continent are noisy throughout, which is great, but it won't elevate. Yeah,
we used to. I think, as you say, it's emotional more than anything. English football, not just Anfield, as you say. And I think Klopp even said, like the Dortmund fans sing all the way through the game, but if you're 3-0 down and they're still singing all the way through the game, you're not going to be getting inspired by it. No. Whereas, rightly or wrongly, if you're quiet and then you start going, come on, then you notice it. You're like, oh, I better start coming on. Yeah. But yeah, so okay, that's fine. That's your opinion. Next one is maybe a bit tougher for you. I apologise, but what are your thoughts on FSG?
I mean, coming from a place that we were, obviously being very conscious of the Hicks and Gillette era when the club could have gone bust, and the way it was, you know, there's always got to be an element of credit there. But you look at the investment in the structure of the club, and the club obviously feels in a much better place. I think that the way that financial fair play and similar rules along those have been implemented, or how well they've been implemented, has frustrated them. And I think that if any sort of deviation away from the financial fair play had been hammered down on more severely, I think they would be looked on in a different, very differently with because has undoubtedly been times when you've been like, if we could have bought an extra player there, would that have made a difference? If we could have brought an extra player there, would that have made a difference? But then conversely, you look at what's happening 35 miles down the road, the other end of the M62, when they've got players who are on big money and they can't shift them, because it's like, well, why would I want to leave Man United when I'm getting 350 grand a week? It's like, so yeah. We are in a ridiculous era, and where if you do make a mistake, it can haunt you for a significant amount of time. And I think they are undoubtedly cautious, sometimes too cautious. And I mean, I think back to the 2014 season. I mean, if we potentially have bought one, I mean, we could have bought Mo Salah, but then again, you look at the way history could have happened, and and similarly in other seasons, you think, oh, could we just got like one more in? Could we have got two more in? But we're not in a bad place. Let's be honest.
Yep.
What as Bob Paisley said, all these problems we've got at the top of the league. So yeah,
that time of recording.
Yeah.
Let's hope.
Yeah,
that carries on. Right, and the last one I'm going to ask you. We've got a few like debates or whatever coming up, and this one I just want to throw on you. Who is the best value Liverpool signing of all time? You can mention a few names to spitball before you pick your idea if you wish. But
okay, I mean, so let's think. I mean, in terms of how much we paid for them at the time. So you're thinking Suarez, but that's 20 million, and 20 million at the time is a lot of money when you consider that Andy Carroll. Okay, the same. It looks like a steal compared to Andy Carroll, but 20 million at the time would, if I'm not mistaken, would that would have been similar to what we played for Aquilani a season or two before.
Yeah.
So similar sort of levels there in terms of the cost, but obviously the output is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Salah, a lot of money. Was it 36? 30 something million, a lot of money. Mane, similar amount of money. Not obviously Salah's continued the output and everything like that, but it's still not an insignificant amount of money laid out. I mean, Hippier. I think Hippier's got to be a shout when you think, was it 3.5 million? Was it Heracles?
The Grunion, yeah.
So, but it was like so 3.5 million we paid for him, I think it was, and obviously he comes back with the European Cup, wins the treble, wins League Cups, stalwart, captain of the club, all dependable. Even at times when you think, he's going to be doing bits. Came in for the 4-1 at Old Trafford in the season when we ended up finished runners up in his last season at Anfield. Gets a testimonial, doesn't he? I think, because
I don't think he did. No, he came out of the last game, didn't he? And got the they did the thing. But Rack wasn't going to bring him on, was he?
Oh yeah. So he does. But for pound for pound for signing, I know 3.4 million is not an insignificant amount of money back in 1998, was it? 98, something like 98, 99 when he signed. Might have been later than that. Might have been.
He was definitely
might have been 99,
more like the classic thick thing, and that was like.
And it was because we signed him, Honcho. Was it Herman signed around the same time?
It's like 4 or 5, wasn't it?
But I think that's a great one. I mean, obviously, the cheat code would be saying, well, we've got 2 free signings in Joel Matip and James Milner, who we paid nothing for. Yep. Obviously, they'll have been compensated for that in terms of increased wages. But for me, Milner is just unbelievable. Like, what a player, instilling the mentality and the professionalism within the club.
Yeah.
So I think we'll use the cheat code and say we'll say James Milner.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, as you said, people could say Van Dijk or whatever, even though he's that much.
Yeah,
he's still unbelievable. But I think if you can't really look past the free signing, and is there many better than James Milner? Right, okay, that's the end of the second section. We'll have another quick break, and we'll see you in a couple of seconds for some more footy chat. Welcome back to the next section of the Football Historian podcast.
Sorry, Pete, I'm really sorry to interrupt you. Where'd you get that shirt from?
Oh, this Latino number was just from Classic Football Shirts. Where'd you get yours from?
Thank you. Mine's from Classic Football Shirts as well.
Wow. Well, when I bought my shirt, I used the code TFH10 to get 10% off all orders. Did you use the same?
I did. I used a discount code. I think it was the same as yours.
Oh, TFH10. Oh, that's great, because if you want to get 10% off all your orders, you can use TFH10 at classicfootballshirts.com.
Unbelievable deal.
Welcome back, third section. We're going to talk a bit more about football history now. So the first one I'm going to ask is, what's the first game or first memory you have of football?
first memory of football would be, I'd say a couple of them. So my mum would always get me like football annuals and specifically Liverpool annuals for Christmas as a sort of way of trying to move me away to being a Liverpool fan, because my dad's a Blue. So it was sort of like, obviously my dad would be away at work and things like this, so my mum would be like, hey, get on this. So I'll be on this. But obviously my dad's got, like, he's one of 4 brothers, and they're all Reds and he's the only Blue. And he's by far the least bitter Blue. Like really, the only time he's really bitter is on Derby Day, and that's it. Apart from the rest of it, he's got no. And I mean, he's really proud of C Senor and things like that when he chats to people. So there's that, and you know, my mum would be giving me Liverpool annuals. On a sadder one, I mean, I remember us being on a family holiday. And I wasn't very old. It must have only been like 4 or 5 when, and you know, my uncles were still match going Reds at the time, of Hillsborough, and so we were on a family holiday in a cottage in Wales, and obviously remember the 80s, you had no sort of way of getting in contact with things then, so they were desperately trying to phone the brothers and find out what had gone on and checking they were okay. And as a kid, I was like, why are Liverpool playing at this place? You know, I thought they played at Anfield, and like not getting your head around what's going on as a kid. So that was that was the sad one. And then a much sort of more playful one was, I remember me and my dad were going around markets trying to find sort of second-hand Sabutio stuff, because it was just like me and one of my mates, Craig, had sort of got like a starter Sabutio set. And we were getting like different teams and things like this, and yeah, I just remember going around these places with my dad and like finding all different teams. I remember us finding one which was like, it said Everton away, and it was like the old blue and the blue and red. No, sorry, Blues, but it's like it's a red and but it's like an orangey red. It's red. It's still but like an orange and navy sort of away kit, the NEC one that they had. Yeah. So it was that one, but obviously it looked like an AC Milan kit with the limitations of the printing on the Sabutio figures, and so because it was a second-hand kit, someone had written Belm underneath it. It's like Everton away, Belm, and I still got them in like my mum and dad's loft somewhere. Yeah. So there's all that, and I remember coming down one morning, and what my dad had bought like a set of new goals and a scoreboard and everything. And when you get the scoreboard, you used to be able to like cut out the names of the teams and put this in. And he set it up as Everton versus Liverpool. It's Everton 1, Liverpool 0. So so all like kind of they like things like that were just like that was like the first sort of memories. There's like 4 or 5 year old, because I think that's the time when you start to really consciously become aware of this thing. Yeah,
that's great. And then obviously your dad's a Blue, your mum's a Red. Did you go to the match often? Did you go to both?
No. So it was until I could start going myself, really. So my first game, I was like 17, I think, 16, 17, was Dortmund in the Champions League, and I got that through one of my friends at school. Obviously, being a Wool as well, it doesn't really help, living outside. So, yeah, it was like one of my friends at school, his family, one of his family worked for MasterCard. So we basically plugged that we were 18, and we drank way too much for like this, like in the thing. So there was like was when the Champions League was still sponsored by PlayStation 2, and so like the PlayStation 2 lads were on one table. We were on like the MasterCard table as the only MasterCard people, and they were having like a competition where they were like seeing how many bottles of it was still Heineken, still a Heineken, but whatever it was, like the Dutch lager, like how many could we put in? And obviously we're all in our suits, so we looked quite. They weren't asking us how old we were. It was like we were not 18. Yeah.
A few beers that night, then, yeah.
Stephen Wright, bumped into Stephen on a plane going on the way to Norway and I was like, yeah, you played in my first ever game. Yeah.
Make him feel old. Yeah. What's your favourite game then for Liverpool? So you can maybe one you've watched, one you've been there.
The most bizarre one that was at is probably winning at the Nou Camp in like 2007, because
golf club game.
Yeah, the golf club game, just because when you think about that, the Barcelona team then is insane. I think a lot of those games from like 2005, the run, and the Chelsea game was still probably the top atmosphere that I've experienced at Anfield, just because when we were talking before about like a wall of noise, but it was like constant, and it still went up a decibel when it needed to.
Yeah,
which is just that really was incredible. So around that time, those sort of games were like, that was something special.
Yeah.
But to win in the new camp and that is it's just insane, really, isn't it? Against the European champions, with like probably the best player in the world, what's the word? The next best player in the world in Messi. So you got so, and then and to somehow pull off that result with Risa kicking the ball with his right foot for the first time in his entire career.
Right, great. And then the next one is the best era of football. So it can be now, it can be before you watched it, it can be any point. But what do you think the best era is of football?
So I've thought about this for a while. I think in possibly the 60s, because there was like an element of egalitarian, where like everyone felt like you could. I feel like you can't really argue who was the best team of the 1960s, because Man United could probably say, well, we won a European Cup and we won a league. Man City could probably say, well, we won a league, and I think they won an FA Cup as well. Tottenham would be like, well, didn't Tottenham win the double in?
Yeah, I think it was definitely that era. I think it was the 60s.
So 61 Tottenham had 61 Tottenham won the league in that.
Yeah.
Because that Arsenal, I can't remember. But obviously Liverpool can be like, well, we won the league in 64 and 66, and we won an FA Cup. We got to a European Cup semi-final and a European final the season after. Everton have got a strong claim for being, well, we were the best team. So you've got that. Obviously England won the World Cup, and you're looking at the players. So you got West Ham. And the kind of contingent of players they had. You still had your Pelés playing. You still had your Grinches playing. You still had, you had Cruyff coming through. You had Beckenbauer playing. So you're thinking about some of the most famous names in football who were there or thereabouts. And yet, in this country, it felt like so many teams had like a really, really good era. So, whereas, nowadays, I think people who kind of dismiss nowadays in terms of football and the quality, I think it's unbelievable. Like when you look at the fitness and the technique and the things that players have nowadays. So
So the 60s, that's a good
but
argument.
The 60s is like when you think about those kind of things in the 60s. So
I did like the 60s in my uni dissertation. I think I remember the intro had something like that. Show like 5 different managers won it all. I think mine was about Shankly and Catholic, and now obviously they both got involved. So you say as much as you can have one team dominating, surely it's better to have loads of different boss teams at the same time. And if the national teams do well as well.
Not even mention Leeds.
Yeah.
My God.
And then the national team's not bad as well at the same time.
Yeah.
But okay, that's a good one. I think you're the first one to say it, and that's a good argument put forward. So well done. The next one is what you've done your homework for. So it's the top 5 Liverpool players of all time, but I believe you want to add something.
Yeah, so I've done it. So in terms of ranking, as in the best Liverpool players of all time, and then my personal favourite Liverpool players.
Have you done one of each?
Yeah, I've done one of each.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Yeah.
So we've
got to go from 5 to 1 to make it more dramatic. Okay. Or we'll go.
You
don't have to.
Okay,
because you look like you're prepared. That's all. You can do whatever order you want.
So we'll go. So in the best Liverpool players of all time. In a particular order, so I'd go number 5, Graham Souness. Like you say, transformative signing. Maybe not. Before my time, but when you think about changing a dynamic in midfield, and came in from Middlesbrough, phenomenal, powerful presence, feared, because you had to be feared in football at that time.
Yeah.
If you're going away and yeah. So you think about the story. Was it Dynamo Bucharest where he's like smashed the player's face in and things like that? He's like a terrifying fella. I mean, you wouldn't mess with him now. My God. He looks like he's like in his 70s. He looks phenomenal. It's like you hear about like astronauts, and because they were like astronauts, like he's like Buzz Aldrin was in his 90s and things like this, and it's like he looks about like 60, and it's like because they're to send them into space. It's like they had to be like the most phenomenal sort of things of humanity. It's like Graham Souness is basically that. It's like you look at him now and he's like insane. So I've gone Graham Souness. I'm gonna go John Barnes 4, and I've just changed that now.
Pressure of the lights.
Yeah, the pressure of the lights. So John Barnes, like a revolutionary footballer, and I think you talk about players you can play in any era, etc. But John Barnes could, play in the game today with his technique and his speed. So for a player to be playing from the early 80s into the 90s, and so he had an incredible amount of longevity. Redefined his career after his Achilles injury. Brilliant, like what a player. Number 3. Number 3, Mo Salah. Honestly, like just incredible. He's never going to catch Ian Rush in the goal scoring charts, just because it's just and it's like, so he must be looking at Rush and being like,
it's not fair.
Are you counting goals you scored in training? So
it's like Carragher. I think said about Callaghan as well. How did he play that many games?
It's insane. It's like, so, but when you think about the output he's got in terms of his assists are a funny one when people post like goal assist charts, and I think that it's a weird stat when you compare to, like, were people tracking assists in the same way back in the day, but it's still unbelievable what he's done for the club. So Salah 3, and then number 2, Steven Gerrard. And I think one of the things that doesn't get overlooked, but when people poo-poo Gerrard's ability and like say that he never got over the line in a league, when you think about what he achieved in keeping us relevant. I mean, Klopp said that in his speech after we won the league, and he said this club was built on Gerrard's legs, or the foundations of what we've done now is built on Gerrard's legs, and it really was. I mean, the thing that sort of gets forgotten in the Istanbul story is that at one point we were in 2003-04, we were miles away from qualifying for the Champions League for the following year. And there was a game against there's the goal against Charlton, and if you think about a typical Gerrard goal, that goal is scored with grit and then him twatting it really hard at the goal, and it was like, was it Paddy Kenny used to play? No, I forget he was getting goal for Charlton that day.
Keelty, is it?
Yeah. Someone else who wore tracky bottoms in goal. So he was just, and games like that, and he dragged us over the line to get us into the tournament the following season. If we hadn't have won the European Cup in Istanbul, would the star of the club sort of, because I mean that was only the 3rd time we'd played in the Champions League, Istanbul, that season, which is crackers to think about it. So yeah, I think him keeping the club at a level where people come to the club and keep us going, and then obviously the spark of Klopp coming in and like getting us to where we are today. And then obviously number 1, Kenny, because unbelievable player, unbelievable manager, and not much more to say about him, is there?
Yeah, so. Exactly. One thing I would pick you up on is only because other people have mentioned it. There's Ian Rush. You just said there, Salah, he's never going to catch him.
Yeah.
Not having a go at you. In general, he doesn't seem to make the top 5. What more could he have done to get in top 5? And that's, I'm not promising having a go at you. I just see he comes up a lot but never gets mentioned.
So Rush, I would have had in at 6.
Yeah,
like as in the net. Yeah, no. Seriously, but no, I would have had Rush as 1 down, because I think Souness was there for 3 of the 4 European Cups. I think Rush only kept. Rush didn't play in 81, did he?
Don't think so.
I don't think Rush played 81. So in terms of those, I mean, if you're talking about the European Cup in the pinnacle of what we did as a club, Rush was there for 84 and obviously was banging in goals aplenty around that time. But I think Rush. Apologise if I'm very much wrong on a podcast literally called the Football Historian. It's like so. I thought Rush was sort of like 82 onwards, as like when he was sort of like, wow, this guy.
Yeah.
And so I think someone like Souness obviously was there for longer. There's obviously recency bias, but I think Salah is incredible, and as an all round player, I just think Mo's incredible. Gerrard's Gerrard, and Barnes is Barnes, and I think in terms of ability, all round ability, I think Barnes shades Rush for me. But you're talking about, my God, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, look, I feel bad putting you on the spot, but I just
it's okay.
Next one then is, you said you've got your favourite.
Yeah.
Are you open 5-1 again, or you just want to?
No, I don't think this is. This is right. So Barnes is in. I feel like I should get rid of someone and put Ian Rush in. So Barnes is there. He's. I mean, even as like as a player whose main attribute that he was known for early in his career, to have that sort of transformative injury and then still do bits. I mean, one of my friends who's a Blackburn fan and writes for like a Blackburn podcast, and for the main Blackburn fanzine, he credits Barnes' overhead goal in their league winning season as his favourite goal, an opposition player, or the best goal ever scored by an opposition player at Ewood Park. And my God, he's seen some drubbings they've suffered, so he's seen a lot of them. And like things like that. I mean, because that was it. It's like the fact that it was a full-on bicycle kick rather than a scissors kick, where you're kind of watching it a bit longer. It's like to hit it flush on it. To hit the ball flush on the sort of perpendicular to the cross coming in is just insane. It's like John Barnes. Put Robbie Fowler in there. The day Robbie Fowler re-signed for Liverpool was one of the happiest days of my life, and it was one of the best weekends of my life. that weekend, we just had a crazy time. Ended up playing in a spontaneous 5-a-side tournament up in Newcastle, because I'd gone up there to watch Bell and Sebastian play, and it was just an incredible weekend. So we had that, and obviously he was one of my favourite players before, and next we have Mo Salah, because I love him, and the fact that my daughter loves him just makes him even more special.
And he FaceTimed her.
And he FaceTimed her. So, and next, Bobby Firmino, because I can't. I've got to be on brand, mate. I've got to be on brand. So, Firmino, and I mean the fun, the fun factor, like little sort of Rabona assist attempts to like people like Mane, and that was it way at Genk, where he just like around the corner. He's just the assist at Rangers for Nunes. That's like things like that. You just, my God, you don't even realise you're watching back, and it's like, my God, the depth of the joy that he gave us was incredible. And last is a weird one in a sense, but just for epitomising everything about a footballer, is Andy Robertson. I fucking love him, and it's just he's been having a bit of a rough time at points this season. And he might have had his best days as a Liverpool player, but my God, his best days. And we were talking about like value for money signings before, and I feel like we've omitted him because he's incredible. We've not had. Risa was good as we can't shy away from it. I know there were moments where like the own goal against Chelsea. I mean, there's someone I know who. He cannot ever forgive him for that goal, because I think he might have booked flights to Moscow. But so Risa, Risa was like a solid Premier League fullback, but the difference and for Robertson to sort of make that his own, score some massive goals, score a derby winner, score that the goal against Villa that I think was the springboard to us kind of really kicking on, and then the week after there's the City game when that put us in the driving seat for that first league title in 30 years. Doesn't happen without Robertson's goal the week before. He gets the assist in the game against City. I love him. Absolutely love him as a player. Like, and I played a 1-2 with him, and I was like, that's boy.
How'd you do that?
Just there was a ball knocking around, and he was there. Roll it to him, and he passes it back, and I was like, well, that's a 1-2 in my book. Gonna be telling me mum that.
Okay, perfect. Right, well, that's Liverpool stuff done. So now we'll go for another top 5 of non-Liverpool players.
Okay,
again, all time.
So this is a hard one because there's so many players who were great who you absolutely hate. So because he was incredible against us, Thierry Henry would have made it, but because he was so good against us, I hated him for it. And he was phenomenal. Like I'd probably say he was the best player to play against us because, well, you think about the Messi in the new camp in 2019, but his first goal was a bit of a tap in, and then his free kick nicked off the wall, and it wasn't a free kick anyway. So I don't think he had a particularly great game, despite scoring 2 goals. And the same with like Ronaldinho back in like 2007. Ronaldinho never really showed up. Messi probably did more over the 2 games than him, and he wasn't. He obviously didn't score, and so Henry was like probably the in terms of the players I've seen like regularly against us, he was like ridiculous. So in terms of my 5, first one, we're going to start with Roberto Baggio, and I've said I love his career trajectory because in Italy he's played for all not played for Roma or Lazio, but you think about it, Fiorentina, I think they're the only ones who really dislike him because they disliked him. I don't know how, but they disliked him because he went to Juventus from the back of Fiorentina, and obviously there's a huge rivalry and hatred between them. But he's played for Juventus, Inter Milan, AC Milan, Brescia, Bologna, and Fiorentina, and he's sort of like he sort of transcends those clubs because of. I mean, you remember like Father Ted was the seat where they're doing like fake names and things like that. It's like Baggio, like, and it is the name that's just synonymous with football in the 1990s. I think it's heartbreaking that he missed that penalty, but ultimately, Baresi had missed one earlier on the shootout, so
putting the blame on
it. You can't. It's not just him, and and you think about the things that Baresi did in the game. So, but it's like the kind of trajectory that he had and the way that he kind of played for Brescia for like 3 seasons, I think it was, towards the end of his career, which is just mad. And he's able to be that sort of fantastista, the sort of the number 10 where they are everything. And I just love that aspect of his game. And it's mad that they sort of had about like 3 or 4 players like that in terms of Del Piero and Totti and him all at the same time. Like obviously the careers overlapping but yeah, so you look back at his highlights reel and there's like volleys he takes out of the air, and there's the one with the balls coming miles and miles and miles, and he just like kills it dead, drags it around the keeper and then rolls it in. And the number of goals where he just walks it into the goal, and like everyone like raves about the George Best goal where he walks it in. It's like, yeah, Baggio was doing that like every week. So he's a special player. So Roberto Baggio. I put Gabriel Batistuta because similar, obviously 90s Italian, like legendary name. Loved smashing the ball really dead hard. And as someone who, as a kid, struggled to hit a ball really hard because at those times when you were playing at school and things like this, the only balls you had or seemed to have were like proper, like mitre, solid, heavy things that picked up a little bit of water. I mean, I don't know how kids in the 60s survived if they were playing with proper cases. It's like, I'd have been dead. I wouldn't be doing this podcast if I'd have been here in the 60s. I'd have been like, football, no, not for me. I'm going to play dot. Yeah. I'll stick to music. So, so that was it. It was like the way he could strike the ball. I love the fact that, you know, he stuck with Fiorentina until it was just like, look, I've done all I can at this club. I just want to win something before the end of my career. And so he obviously went to Roma, and lo and behold, he wins the league with them. Because obviously that is a weird career move, because you think if you go into a team to win in Italy, you think, well, I'm going to go to Juventus or AC or Inter. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to go to Roma. It's like, what?
And still does
it. And then he still does it. And there's a great story about him being at Fiorentina, and they're really, really in the running for the league. And they've got Edmundo as his sort of like his counterpart, and like Batistuta gets an injury, and they're like, okay, Edmundo, you're going to have to step up and do the business here. And Edmundo points out that he has a clause written into his contract where he's allowed to go back to Rio de Janeiro and go to Carnival. And he's like, well, it's Carnival next week, so I'm off. And they're like, you what? And he's like, you're going to Carnival next week. So Edmundo, like, it's like, but we need you, Edmundo. He's like, see you later. And he just goes to Carnival. So it's like, I mean, well,
imagine that now.
I mean, yeah. Like, imagine Firmino doing that. It's like, so yeah, come on, Bobby. You know, we're struggling a bit here. Got like Mane's got a bit of an injury. It's like, what are you joking? I'm going to be dancing on the Copacabana with some like absolute like hottie. So yeah.
So Edmundo's not in the top 5.
No, Edmundo's not made it, but Batistuta has. I mean, there's that. It's a really famous goal he scored in the Champions League against Arsenal, and you look at the angle and like. David Seaman's just like he does David Seaman does some beautiful dives when the ball's past him. It's like a proper spring, and it's over his head before he can realise it. But my God, David Seaman makes the goal look twice the goal. It's like a great goal. David Seaman makes it look incredible. So ponytail. No, I don't even know if he had his ponytail at that point, but like proper like flapper. Oh God, it's what we had. So unbelievable goal.
Well then, number 3.
Number 3. We've gone with Ronaldo Luis Nazario de Lima. I always forget his full name, so that's why I've written down. But I said career trajectory for those two, and I think his is insane when you think about the highs, early doors, and the things he was doing, and then to come back and win that World Cup after 4 years before, and in that 4 years, he's just broken down twice on the pitch. You're thinking, oh no. And then, I mean, the film is well worth watching because it's just incredible. But when I've never seen a player like that, and probably until Haaland, like of sheer power and sheer speed and just deadly finishing. And that was the one thing. I say worried about Haaland because obviously he's playing for one of our rivals, but as a pure football sense, I was like, obviously football, medical facilities and medical knowledge is different nowadays, and so they play like looking at him and going. So if Haaland did have a serious crock in him, then they're probably like, watch those knees, lad.
Yeah.
But you kind of think about that, the sheer acceleration. And he was just, it's mind, and then the control and the finishing ability. He was just something else. And
good player.
What a player! So the next one is Ricardo Kaká, because I loved watching him, and unfortunately saw him a bit too close up a couple of times, but. Like that, when around those times in the Champions League, he had that beautiful finish where he'd do the kind of Coutinho anywhere around the box and the arc on the ball. He could dribble. His speed across the ground when he got going was phenomenal. And I love a player who can properly drive with the ball and go. And it's like, wow. And the big thing with Kaká was he looked so graceful. And obviously the at that time there was before the conversation became Messi or Ronaldo.
Yeah,
he was the last person to win the Ballon d'Or before those two basically duopolized it.
Yeah,
And he was incredible. My God. Like I said, we saw it up close in Istanbul, and then obviously in Athens, because he was like the focus. But I mean, the goal he scored, where he basically makes a mockery of the Man United defence in like 2007, that was hilarious. I mean, seeing basically making the two lads run into each other is like, because now a couple of years later they broke like the clean sheet record in the Premier League, if I'm not mistaken, and he made them look like the Keystone Cops, and he was phenomenal, and the grace with which he played it was how I wanted to play the game as a sort of an attacking midfielder. And it's like, I'd think, you imagine yourself like doing that kind of thing, which brings me on to number 5, which is the player I have picked, because out of all the players I play, if I was to pick a player who I play the game like, it's this guy, and this is Thomas Muller. Because it's sort of like, he gets ridiculed for being the best of the best shit player in the world, in the same way that Inzaghi used to get ridiculed in training for like being a dreadful a dreadful footballer, but he'd then stick the ball back in the back of the net. And Thomas Muller is not a dreadful footballer, because you don't win the World Cup with Germany, and you don't win Champions Leagues and everything with Bayern Munich and be shite. And he's absolutely categorically not shite. But at the same time, he's the scruffiest sort of striker of a ball. I think he's phenomenal. And it's the number of times in 5-a-side I am called a jammy git and just like get abuse. It's like, you bastard, and things like this. And
can't be lucky if he keeps doing it.
But it's because you got to keep on making the runs and getting to the position. And seeing someone like Muller do it, it's like, the game, you think the game's in his head, and yeah, I love him. I think he's brilliant. And when if you're thinking about Ronaldo's kind of compilation of all his World Cup goals, I think if you looked at Muller's, you'd be like, oh, look at this, he's just like the 6-yard box, and it's come off his shin, and it's bobbled in, and he's like running away like, yeah, and that's it. So yeah, Thomas Muller.
Okay, that's good. Very Italian heavy. Obviously, Muller wasn't there, so I'm guessing you watched Channel 4.
Yeah. Oh, God. I mean,
Italian, all that stuff. Italian 90.
Oh, the kits. They're just the best kits. I mean,
big impact.
Yeah, huge in terms of getting into football and things like that. I mean, James Richardson's got a lot to answer for.
Right, okay, the next one is an all-time 5-a-side team. Please.
Okay, so...
any team, any era, do whatever you wish.
Any player, any era.
Any
okay,
player,
right.
Any
so
team, any era, yeah.
I've got to clarify this. So in different 5-a-side leagues, you have different goalkeeper rules. So obviously, most of the time, your goalkeeper can't come out the area.
So what we're playing here then? Or?
I don't know.
You
oh no, okay, right. So and the other one is a lot of goalkeepers. A lot of the rules I have, goalkeepers cannot kick it out.
Well, okay, we'll do my 6-a-side rules, but although it's 5-a-side, it's that keeper can't leave the box.
Yeah,
underarm.
So the underarm, because I was honestly going to pick Ederson because I think he is revolutionary. Because I mean, what's he called? Neuer obviously revolutionized the sweeper keeper, etc., etc. They took it to another level. But I think Ederson has then taken it on again, and he's better with his feet than Neuer. But obviously, if you're playing in goal and 5 and things like that, and you've got to roll it out. So I was going to have Alisson, but I mean, I think one of the best goalkeepers ever. And you're thinking 5-a-side goals. I'm picking Neville Southall. I'm picking an Evertonian, but it's Neville Southall because having played 5-a-side, the best 5-a-side goalkeepers are units. And it's sort of like, it's all well and good being Alisson, who's like, okay, he's a big fella, but I want someone who's even wider than him because I want who's also got the agility of a cat. So I'm going to go Neville Southall in goal.
Okay, that's fine. That's for your dad.
Yeah, for me, Dad. There you go, Dad. That's the first thing I've done for Everton in about. So I mean, we did write a song called "Too Many Blues to Shake." Yeah. So yeah, maybe Neville Southall is one of those blues, and I can't shake him. And he also responded to he responded to a letter I wrote 30 years late because I wrote this at primary school, and I'd taken the piss out of him in a letter. And I sent a photo of it to him on Twitter because I'd never actually, and he responded going, "Oh well," never mind. And he was dead nice, and then he started following me on Twitter as well. So I was like,
Yeah.
and he's a lovely guy. So yeah, he's a proper social warrior and everything like this. So good on Neville.
So he's in the
But,
five-a-side
yeah,
team.
so we'll put him in the five-a-side team. He can do bits, you know. So Big Nev in goal.
Formation.
I'm gonna go a box. So when we used to play five-a-side in a league winning five-a-side team, the one we played for, we had a big unit in goal. I mean, we played two defenders, one either side of the box. Have you got that rule where you can't pass it straight back to the goalkeeper?
Yes, they give it to you.
So
You
you've
can't
got
go straight back.
So we had the two players either side, so you can dark side it when you're winning. So you basically play the ball across the box, and your player plays it back into the keeper. Which
Nice.
we were dirty. We were horrible.
I like that.
No, this is why. Yeah.
Quite used to. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So you play the first pass. So the two, I'd play Virgil van Dijk left side because unbelievable passer of the ball, and my God, he's huge. And like you getting past him? No. On the other side, Beckenbauer because it's Franz Beckenbauer. Obviously, you're thinking five-a-side. I think you kind of want midfield players to do a lot. You kind of want players who aren't out-and-out strikers, aren't out-and-out defenders because you've got to do bits in between. So Van Dijk is obviously, you've got Paolo Maldini saying he's a centre-half he'd like to play alongside. And it's like, well, I think that'll do for me. In terms of him, like as an all-time member of my five-a-side team, and his passing ability is incredible. And Beckenbauer obviously getting the ball, moving into midfield. Going to put him in there. And then as your other two, I'm going to put Luis Suarez because he's just going to be creating chaos running around the pitch. And someone he linked up well with is Lionel Messi, which is cheating a little bit, but I don't care. I kept him out of my 5 players there, so yeah, we'll put Lionel Messi in because him and Suarez had a great relationship at Barcelona, and you might as well pick one of the greatest players of all time.
Yeah, why not? It's 0-0. There's 2 minutes to go.
Yeah.
Messi gets injured. Who are you bringing on? Who's your super sub?
I was so tempted to say myself.
You can. You're allowed to.
No, God, no.
I normally say that to the ex-players.
What kind of a prick would I be to say, yeah, I've got like Beckenbauer, Van Dijk, Suarez, and me. It's like, no, I'm not.
Stay if you want it.
I mean, musicians have egos, but I'm not. I mean, I'd say you want someone like low centre of gravity, like a like for like replacement for Messi, and so Diego Maradona, he was okay, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So yeah,
He'd come on the last couple. All right, great. Well, that ends that section. I'm going to come back and for our final break, and then we're going to settle some of the biggest debates in football history. Okay. See you in a sec. Are you looking for a Kazakhstani football team to support? Then I think FC Kemay is the team you should support. Do you agree?
Growing up as a child, I always had FC Kemay posters on my bedroom wall.
Well, and all the children of the Kazakhstani future will have FC Kemay posters on their wall because FC Kemay is the team to support, and because of that, Tom has made us a chant that we're all going to follow. So,
up the Kemay, up the Kemay,
up the Kemay. Make sure you follow them on all the social medias, all the posts and all the things you should follow will appear below us and right here. You should be a supporter of FC Kemay.
Live, laugh, Kemay.
The debate.
Welcome to the final section, the debate. Come on, let's sort through the biggest debates in football history. First one, I think I know who you're going to say. Yeah. Gerrard, Lampard, Scholes, and in which order, please?
Okay, well, Gerrard number 1, I think in terms of ability and his physical attributes, I think he's ahead of them. I've been seeing them all on numerous occasions. I mean, it's not getting away from it that they're all very, very good players. Very, 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 very good players. Lampard's numbers are insane for an attacking midfielder. And Scholes' longevity is brilliant as well. I think there was a mad thing when he came back for that game for Man United against. They were playing away at the Etihad in the cup, and I just think about how if Gerrard had done the same for us after retiring, and then kind of come out for retirement, and we had a game away at Goodison Park, that would be amazing. And like if the boot was on the other foot, that would be amazing. Imagine you're in the pub before it's like, as soon as he's on the bench, fucking ball Scholes, man.
Yeah, you have to go to Sports Direct and need to get.
Yeah. It's like that would be absolutely so. But yeah, for me, Gerrard was just like a different level. I mean, I think the both of them have said they couldn't have done what Gerrard done at Liverpool, in terms of, you know, the Istanbul thing. I mean, you know, not saying there weren't like limitations to Gerrard in his career, but he also developed as a player. Like, so I think Gerrard. People think, oh, he was a great free kick taker, and for years, I don't think he was. The ball would always be laid off to him, and you'd have like the goals, like the Portsmouth goal, you'd have the PSV Eindhoven goal, you'd have the Newcastle goal, and then all of a sudden there was like the goal away at Villa Park at the 2-1 at the start of the season, and then it was like, oh, Gerrard can take free kicks now. All right, because and then towards the end of his career, and I think because he obviously. Naturally, footballers get older, you lose a little bit of pace. So I think he wasn't getting the ball laid off to him and being able to find that extra like fraction of a moment of space. So he wasn't striking the ball from distance and successfully as often because he wasn't getting the space to do it as often. And then, but at the same time, he was hitting free kicks. So there was one against Basel. In a game, I think we drew in the end, but we needed to win by 2 clear goals, something to go through. There was Sunderland, I think he scored one in the derby. He was, and it was a facet he vastly improved on and became different at striking the ball from a dead ball that wasn't shifted to him. And his delivery into the box became, you know, phenomenal. Whereas before it was like. He wasn't always the one taking those free kicks, and you had people like Alonso, like taking them early on in his time at Liverpool. Yeah. So yeah, he was. I mean, even when you've seen Paul Scholes talking about it on some football podcasts, he can be detrimental to certain times of his Man United career and say that he had like troughs and things like this, and you don't really think about them because recency bias makes you think of like Paul Scholes, the sitting midfielder, and it's like, oh, Gerrard couldn't do that, and it's like, well, yeah, but when Paul Scholes was doing other bits, he might have been pushed out of the team, and yeah, but yeah, so in terms of ranking them, Gerrard, and then I'd probably say Lampard ahead of Scholes, but I mean,
it's close.
Yeah, it's a close thing, isn't it? Yeah. But yeah,
there's a reason it's a debate. Next one is Pele or Maradona.
I prefer Maradona, but I think Pele and the fact that he won 3 World Cups is insane. I mean, with, like I said, use that word trajectory. Maradona's career is just incredible, and the fact that he had the time at Sevilla, and he had the ban, and he had the, you know, takes Argentina to a World Cup in 1990 that they probably didn't have any right to be in. Wins the World Cup in 86, does all the stuff with Napoli, which is just fairy tale stuff, and there's a reason why he's still revered like a god in Naples. Yeah. But Pele, I mean, I think the difficulty with Pele is that he existed primarily in a time before the game was as universally covered as it is now. I mean, Maradona possibly suffers because a lot of the greatest footage of him is in grainy, horrible, low definition, but there's enough of it to be like, wow. So, but yeah, I think from what people have said, I think Pele's achievements on the pitch are incredible. Even if he probably never did really score 1,000 goals.
Yeah, you have to trust him. Next one is Messi or Ronaldo.
Personally, Messi. I think that I think in terms of pure numbers and achievement, I think by winning a World Cup as well as 2 Copa Americas, he's got that in conjunction with everything else he's won. You can't really argue with what Ronaldo's won, but I think it's a difficult one. I mean, they've both had very, very different sort of arcs to the way they've played. I mean, but ultimately they both ended up in lesser leagues to promote those lesser leagues in completely different ways. And yeah, I mean, I suppose the thing that's blagging here is like, you know, whichever way you go, you're going to get fanboys off the internet. Go, why are you so wrong? But it's like, that's just the nature of football nowadays, and the nature of football culture, where there's a lot more player orientated the support, which is just the nature of I suppose football becoming like individualized in instances like that. But I always felt that Messi had more to his game in a playmaking role than Ronaldo did, and that put him over the edge. But I mean, you can't. I mean, and obviously as a Liverpool player, ex-Man United player, you're always going to be slightly biased against them.
Yeah,
which is fine, just nature of football. But you see, when we're talking about the John Barnes perpendicular overhead kick, Ronaldo's overhead kick against Juventus was just one of the most sensational looking aesthetically goals that I've ever seen. So yeah,
he's slightly over the hill then.
Exactly. He's not peak Cristiano
Yeah.
Ronaldo. So
right, if they're the best two players of the last 10-15 years, who's third best behind them?
For me, Luka Modric, and I think is it 6 Champions Leagues he's won.
Yeah,
that's absolutely
right
phenomenal. It's I mean, before Madrid did those 3 on the run, there was that thing where like no one had ever retained the Champions League in the Champions League era. And then we'll do 3. And then but we'll do 3 after winning it in 2013-14. Oh, by the way, against our City rivals. Oh, and by the way, we're then gonna just become this absolutely narky team in a couple of years' time when people think we're shite, but we'll actually manage to beat Chelsea and Man City in the most insane circumstances. And then we'll manage to play a game where like we've got -4 XG against Liverpool or something, and our keeper will have the greatest game any goalkeeper's ever had, and it's insane. But never mind what he did with Real Madrid, to get a nation the size of Croatia to a World Cup final, a World Cup semi-final, and what else? And what else has he done? He got to a Nations League final. Nations League final.
Yeah, did he lose that
and
as well? Yeah,
he's like, it's a joke. It's a nation smaller than Scotland, only slightly bigger than Wales in terms of population, and to do that, and it's not like a Greece, whereby Greece were grinding out results by having a really defensive, solid back four. It's by like scoring worldly goals and doing this. I mean, I know they got to the World Cup final. There were penalty shootouts here and there, but they still beat Russia in a penalty shootout in Russia. It's like that's not a mean feat.
Pretty well it's supposed to do that. Yeah.
Oh my God! Half the team was supposedly suffering from injuries in that thing and grinding it out. I think Modric is unreal player.
Yeah, he's a good player. He won the Ballon d'Or as well, which is important. Yeah. Next one then, goalkeepers: Buffon, Casillas, and Neuer. Put them in order, please.
In order.
It's your Italian football head.
Yeah. I mean, the kind of longevity thing is like making me think. It's making me rank Buffon higher. But I think towards the end of his time at Juve, he'd obviously gone down the pecking order, and they brought other keepers in. Obviously had the time at PSG, didn't he, as well? I think Neuer I think the way Neuer revolutionized the sweeper keeper. I mean, I suppose I would say I'd go Neuer, Buffon, Casillas. Casillas was brilliant, but I've seen him be brilliant and ship 4 goals at Anfield, and he shipped 6 goals at home against Barcelona. Now I know it was that Barcelona team at their absolute pomp under Pep, but you're still shipping 6 goals here and 4 goals there, and World Cup winning goalkeeper as well.
To be third in that list doesn't mean you're a bad goalkeeper.
No, exactly. You're talking about the and I suppose Neuer does feel like he's sort of past his best a little bit. So it's like recency bias, but in reverse, I guess, because you're sort of thinking, he's got ricking him here and there, but he's still Manuel Neuer. He's pretty good.
Well, we had John Achtenberg in, obviously the former Liverpool goalkeeper coach, and he said Manuel Neuer. So anyone who says Neuer, you get it. That's correct. That's the expert. You got that one right. The rest, maybe not.
Yeah, okay.
3 to go. We've got the next one is the most overrated player of all time.
Okay. Right. So what we were saying before was that it was how you qualify something. So when you say an overrated player of all time, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are bad.
Yep.
That means that the hype around them is way more than so.
I've got a shout for Pele and Messi for this. So in that proves that you can be very good and still be overrated.
So what I've in order to limit the amount of hate I receive, I've actually written this down. So I remember doing one on a rival Liverpool podcast. Not that this is a Liverpool podcast by any means, but on a podcast, and there was a shout out, yay or nay, David Beckham is the most overrated player of all time, and I was like, I'm not having that. I think the fact that he had the amount of celebrity that he did was changed the public perception of him and made him think, oh, he must be the best player, but he wasn't the best player in the teams that he was playing in for England.
Yeah.
And also he's an incredible athlete, ahead of his time as an athlete. Right. So anyway, so it's not Beckham. So going back to this podcast I've done previously, because I was trying to think at the same time, and I was trying to think of an overrated footballer. I was like, I couldn't disagree, and I always felt that nagged me. I always hated Alan Shearer, because I lived in Newcastle when I was at university, and I've just got this like all the time. I fucking hated Alan Shearer, and he always used to just be elbows and physicality, and that kind of play just because I knew from playing against players like that, in like Sunday League and things like this, that just drove me mad when people were just like, it was just someone who could just score loads of goals just by being just great, but also by being
a bit nasty.
By being a bit nasty, and that just wound me up too much. So, but you can't really say he's overrated when he scored the number of goals he scored. So I put Neymar, and it's not that he's bad, but the amount of hype, and because I think he suffered because he's symptomatic of an age when football and footballers are an individual commodity in a lot of senses. And I mean, Barcelona probably wouldn't have won that treble in 2014-15 without him, because he was brilliant. But the way he was revered as like, this is like the next Pele and things like that. And I think when you've obviously got Argentina as their national rival next door, and they've obviously got Messi at the same time. When you've got this guy, it's like, oh, you've got Messi, but look at this guy, and he's not Messi, and his ability is phenomenal, but he's not been able to have the same absolute peak longevity. And the fact that he's gone to Saudi is like, it's sad that he's done that, but obviously
in France for so many years as well, when he was at his peak, and he had the World Cup where he could have he either won that World Cup as the linchpin of Brazil. He would have had an argument, but he didn't.
Exactly. But so I don't
think you get too much hate on that.
But it makes me annoyed that I've said that, because when you look at like was it Santos, and there's that game when he played against Ronaldinho. Was he back at Gremio? Was it? But it's like a 5-4 or 6-5 or something insane game, and the two of them are just basically trading off against each other, and it's like a proper watch. But when you think, you almost feel more annoyed when a footballer you feel like a footballer has this ceiling and they can't quite get to that ceiling. You're like,
yeah.
So yeah, there you go.
It's a good one. Okay, 2 to go. The next one is the greatest football manager of all time. I haven't prepped, but I'll put you on.
Okay. I'd say Bob Paisley, but I think the fact that he's obviously linked with Shankly and there's the continuity era, and you can obviously say that Bob Paisley wouldn't have existed without Shankly and conversely. So that knocks him off. I cannot categorically say Alex Ferguson because he ruined my childhood. So, sorry.
Are you sorry?
No, I'm not fucking sorry. I'm not going to say Pep Guardiola because he's ruined my adulthood. So, I'm going to say Arrigo Sacchi.
Okay.
Because the kind of obviously gets Milan, completely changes how a lot of tactics and things are thought of. Makes Milan up to be this absolute, to use a Liverpoolian phrase, a bastion of invincibility. They were like phenomenal. Creates these players, then goes to Italy, nearly wins them a World Cup. Sacchi. I mean, it's not longevity, but yeah.
But he's still quoted today from the current
Yeah,
managers.
exactly.
Like
That's it. The legacy,
yeah.
the legacies he's got is yeah.
He's good. Yeah, good shout. Last one is the greatest football team ever. So this could be any team, any era. It could be for like a game. It could be for a season, a tournament, whatever.
Okay. Well, I've done a domestic and an international one. Nice. Internationally, I'm going to pick Germany from around the early 70s right through to 1996 because it's unreal. Because honestly, you look at how many finals they get to, and it's sort of like the Panenka chip. Who were they playing in the final? West Germany. It's like, so the year, 2 years before, it's like, oh, Holland. My God, what a team Holland were. They've got Johan Cruyff. They've got Neeskens. They're like absolutely incredible. Yeah, but they got beat in the final by West Germany. It's like, and there's an insane thing where like West Germany and Germany could have crushed the greatest players of all time consistently. It's like 54 against Hungary. Hungary have got like this incredible team. Is it the Magyars they're called?
Yeah.
And it's like, sorry, you're playing West Germany, lad. It's like West Germany just like managed to just destroy. It's like, I mean, Puskás would have so much more love and appreciation as one of the greatest players of all time, which he undoubtedly is, if he wins the World Cup by beating against Germany. And Germany just go, no, not today. Maradona, we've just been talking about the greatest player of all time. Is he or isn't he? You're not having that conversation. If Germany managed to eke out, if they get to penalties in 1986 and they managed to just like snuff that out, the Italy get. I mean, 82. Everyone's talking about Rossi for Italy and winning it. Or you talk about the great Brazilian entertainers of like Socrates and everything, but like West Germany got further than Brazil in the competition to get to the final. It's like, wow, how where you, and you just like, Germany are going to be, and obviously the coverage in England obviously centres on the fact that they got knocked out in 96 and 1990 by Germany on penalties, but that's avoiding the fact that like, I mean, I think 1994 was the first one when they felt like they really, really underwhelmed. I mean, they got to the final in 92. It's like, again, Germany there in the final.
Find a way.
It's like, there's only that, I mean, which is why when Bulgaria knocked them out of the World Cup in 1994, it felt like a huge thing. And you think, oh, is this the end for Germany? But then lo and behold, they go and win it in 1996. So it's like, so what, the legacy and the players. Obviously, you still got the end of the tail end of Beckenbauer in 1974, and then going through, you got like Lothar Matthäus and everyone coming through and kind of keeping things going. So yeah, Germany for me are, because I mean you've got your Brazil that had the whole run from like 58 to 70, but yeah, but Germany just seems to be for like longer than that. Okay, so there you go. That's my international shout.
Yeah,
that's my international shout.
Club.
And club, I was obviously I've seen a couple where people have picked Barcelona, but the mad thing for me, and I'm being Liverpool centric, is Barcelona's greatest period. They've been to 4 European Cup finals between 2006 and today. Liverpool have only competed in the Champions League era 16 times. We've been to 5 finals. which is just bonkers.
Yep.
It's like the only difference is that Barcelona have got that sort of I know Catalonia, but they win every single final because because ostensibly it's like Spanish Catalonian team, and Spain just don't seem to lose finals, which is just bananas.
Yeah,
absolutely bananas. But so I've not picked Barcelona, and hence why. Real Madrid were a really good shout, because that period from 2013 to now, it's when a team is that annoying in terms of you thinking they're not that good. No, these aren't that good, but yeah, they won the European Cup, and they won the European Cup again. Oh, and by the way, they're probably going to win the European Cup this year somehow. Oh, and by the way, here we are again, and you're like, wow. So it's that, to have that mentality is an insane thing that has to permeate throughout the entire club. But I'm going to go for going on. Obviously, picked Saki before, but that sort of AC Milan team from like the late 80s and through to about like 95. Obviously, the way that they then had the transition from Saki to Capello, and they managed to keep on winning. There was that European Cup final where they defeated Barcelona, and obviously they had loads of injuries, and they didn't just beat them; they smashed them 4-0. And it's like, what? And obviously that's the Cruyff sort of era of like Barcelona, the dream team, Romario, Stoichkov, and they just go and smash them 4-0. It's like, and that is another thing. That's the kind of thing when we're obviously speaking our own, like smashing Barcelona 4-0, that's having a sort of a culture and a structure and a mentality that permeates throughout the club, where you think, doesn't matter that this fella's injured, that this fella's injured. Van Basten, doesn't matter, because we've got this guy who'll step up and he knows what he's doing, and he's got the grit and the drive to win.
That's a great answer, and I must say some fantastic football knowledge. I'm not trying to say it, but that's good. It was enjoyable, and you had a lot of knowledge in a lot of areas. So thank you so much. Yeah. That's the full-time whistle on the interview. I just want to say thanks very much for coming in. The stuff you're doing with the football songs for the food banks is very admirable. Also, when I did the Billy Little book, you were a big help. You did the original champ for me, So I'll try and link that in some way. But you recreated the first ever Liverpool song for me.
That was great fun. Yeah,
and also just thank you so much for coming in. It's very kind of you. Is there anything you want to plug, share, anything people need to do at home?
Yeah, no. So obviously, the Ragamuffins. You can get us on Spotify. You can get us if you actually want to buy the music. You can get it on Bandcamp, or you can get it on anything like Deezer, Apple Music, Amazon Music. Anything like that. We've got loads of stuff that isn't just Liverpool centric. We've got a new record that's going to be coming out in 2025, which is like going to be a full length album, which is the first one we've done for quite a few years. I think 2017 was the last full length proper album that isn't like a compilation or a BBC Sessions thing. So we've got that. Keep an eye out. And obviously we've got all the football stuff as well. So I'm sure we'll have more of that as well.
Right, perfect. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you for watching at home, and I'll see you next time on the Football Historian Podcast.
Locking eyes from across the room, heart is pounding. What have I have to lose? Feeling tends to blur your sight.